He could not walk as a child. He crawled on the floor of his father's royal court, while other children laughed at him. His own mother was humiliated in public because of him. The king's advisors said he would never be anything. They were wrong. Sundiata Keita rose from that floor, built the largest empire in African history, and created a kingdom so wealthy it produced the richest human being who ever lived. You may know Mansa Musa. Sundiata Keita is the man who built everything Mansa Musa inherited. This is his story. Sundiata was born around 1217 in the kingdom of Kangaba in what is now southern Mali. His father was King Nare Maghan Konate. A soothsayer had told the king, "Marry an ugly woman, and she will give you a son who will make your name live forever." The king obeyed. He married Sogolon Konde, a woman known across the kingdom for her plain appearance. She gave birth to Sundiata, but the boy could not walk. He could not stand. His legs were weak from birth. In a royal court where strength was everything, the prince who could not stand was a source of shame. And the king's first wife publicly humiliated Sundiata's mother, demanding baobab leaves for cooking and saying with contempt that perhaps her crippled son could fetch them, since he was useful for nothing else. Sogolon wept. Sundiata saw his mother cry, and something shifted inside him. He called for the iron rod that men used for support, a rod so heavy it took several men to lift. He gripped it. He pushed. He shook. He stood. For the first time in his life, Sundiata Keita stood on his own feet. He then walked to a baobab tree and tore it from the ground with his bare hands. He placed it at his mother's door. Nobody laughed again. When his father died, Sundiata's half-brother seized the throne. Sundiata, now walking, now strong, was seen as a threat. He and his mother were driven out of Kangaba into exile. They wandered from kingdom to kingdom, Jedeba, Tabon, Mema, surviving on the hospitality of foreign kings. Sundiata grew up as a refugee, a displaced prince with no kingdom, no army, and no home. But everywhere he went, people saw something in him. He was generous, he was fearless, he listened, and he was building something quietly. A network of allies, a reputation, a promise. He was preparing for a return nobody believed was coming. While Sundiata was in exile, a new terror rose in West Africa. Sumaoro Kante, king of the Soso Empire, was conquering everything in his path. He was known as a sorcerer. His warriors wore armor made from human skin. Kings who faced him disappeared. He invaded Kangaba. He sacked its cities. He humiliated its people. The kingdom that had thrown Sundiata out now sent desperate messengers to find him. They crossed forests and rivers, searching for the exiled prince. When they finally found him grown, powerful, surrounded by allies, they fell to their knees. They begged him to come home and save them from the man no one else could stop. Sundiata said yes. He gathered every king and ally who owed him loyalty from his years of exile, and he marched home. The boy who had been driven out as a refugee returned as a general. As he crossed back into Mali, people lined the roads to see him. They had heard stories about the prince who could not walk and then tore a baobab tree from the ground. Now they saw him tall, commanding, undefeated in every battle he had fought in exile. He was not coming back to reclaim a throne. He was coming back to build something that had never existed before. Around 1235, at the Battle of Kirina, Sundiata faced Sumaoro directly. Sumaoro was believed to be protected by powerful magic invincible in battle, but Sundiata's griot, his royal storyteller, had discovered Sumaoro's weakness: a white rooster's spur. Sundiata fired an arrow, tipped with a rooster's spur at Sumaoro. It struck him. Sumaoro's power broke. His army collapsed. He fled into the mountains and was never seen again. In a single battle, the most feared king in West Africa was destroyed. And Sundiata Keita, the boy who could not walk, stood over the ruins of his enemy's empire. The Mali Empire had begun. After Kirina, Sundiata did not just take a throne, he built a system. He united the fractured Mandinka clans under one government. He established laws protecting farmers and traders. He opened the gold and salt trade routes that would make Mali the wealthiest kingdom on earth. He built the city of Niani into a capital that would become famous across Africa and the Arab world. Under Sundiata, the Mali Empire grew to cover modern Mali, Guinea, Senegal, Gambia, and beyond. He did not just win a war, he built a civilization, and that civilization would go on to produce Mansa Musa, the richest human being in all of recorded history. Here is what makes Sundiata's story unlike almost any other in African history. It was never written down in his lifetime. It was preserved entirely by griots, the royal storytellers of West Africa, passed from father to son, mouth to ear, for over 800 years. No library, no manuscript, no European archive, just memory, music, and the unbroken chain of African oral tradition. You have probably heard of Mansa Musa, the richest man in history. Almost nobody has heard of Sundiata Keita, the man who built everything Mansa Musa inherited. Without Sundiata, there is no Mali Empire. Without the Mali Empire, there is no Mansa Musa. Without Mansa Musa, there is no gold trade that funded universities across North Africa. Everything connects back to a boy who could not walk, who stood up, who came back, who built it all. And history gave the credit to someone else. Sundiata Keita died around 1255, but what he built lasted 2 more centuries. He established the Kurukan Fuga, a social charter that guaranteed rights to women, farmers, and traders. One of the earliest human rights documents in history, created in Africa in the 13th century. The Mandinka people across West Africa, in Mali, Guinea, Senegal, Gambia, trace their heritage directly to his empire. Across West Africa today, his name is spoken with the same weight as any king in history. He just never made it into your textbook. They told him he would never stand. He stood. They drove him out of his home. He came back with an army. They gave the throne to someone else. He built an empire that made that throne irrelevant. Sundiata Keita is not just African history. He is proof that where you start does not determine where you end. That the people who laugh at you today can end up living inside the empire you build tomorrow. Africa knew this 800 years before anyone else wrote it down. If Sundiata's story moved you, share it. Tag someone who needs to hear that where you start is not where you end. Subscribe to Africa Untold because we have only just scratched the surface of what Africa built. Drop a comment below. Did you know that Sundiata Keita founded the same empire that produced Mansa Musa? Let us see how many people are connecting the dots for the first time.